So, you know, the thing about having a brain injury, as we said, is the challenge is when you're relying on your brain. And for me, as a breast cancer survivor, as I said, you know, you figure out how to thrive no matter what's going on with you. So as a woman with a mastectomy, I realized that, you know, it's not such a bad deal. For instance, you know, we always have cell phones, right? So you have a place to put your cell phone. Ladies, is that practical or what? And then, you know, you have a service and you want to tip someone. Maybe you only have $1, but you pull it out of here, he's pretty happy. And we have our cell phones. And, you know, I think that Apple wants to make that iPad smaller, but I don't really see any reason at all because... I mean, what's so bad about that? And then, you know, my father taught me, you must be self-reliant, Dani. No matter whatever happens to you, you're a woman, you need to know how to fix a car. If you're on the freeway, you've got to make sure that you're prepared. That, ladies and gentlemen, is in honor of my friend Susan. A big hand for Susan. So, I want to know, if you don't mind, a little bit about who you are. So how many people are here, if you'd raise your hand, if you're here because you're in support of finding information and support for someone who's suffering with a brain disorder, injury, or illness? Okay, great. It's a lot of people. Really wonderful, big majority. So that's why we're here today. You know, everybody, when you're diagnosed with something very serious, it's always serious to go to the doctor. But when you're diagnosed with something that's complex, and maybe we don't have all the all the tools that are very obvious to what it is that can help you, it's so important, self-advocacy. Some of my very best friends are doctors. That just cut out, didn't it? Okay. And I actually had 2 doctors stand up for me in my wedding. They were men. They were in my maid of honor lineup. But the important thing is, it's your life. There's nothing more precious than that. And it's your important journey to find the treatment and the care that's best for you. Now, it's always hard. You know, it's a big deal when you go to the doctor and trying to find the right care. And the most important thing in your self-advocacy, and if you're advocating for your loved one, is to find this care, and we all know it's really work. Medicine is an art. It's rooted in science and intuition, and the doctor is coming from a place of experience, and very importantly, caring. It's very important to find someone who really cares about what's going on with you. Last year we had some illness in my family, and we went to, and you know, I'm an old hand at this. I got $1 million from the I'm losing it, Joel. I mean just the mic, not me. So we had illness in my family, and I got $1 million grant from the County of San Diego to set up a navigator program for patients. So I'm a babe that makes it happen. I'm sorry to tell you. When we go in to see a doctor, I'm always very friendly, very professional with them, or earnest, and I want to know what about them. I want to know how they're going to be with me or my family member. So we found a doctor who's very famous, and we went to go see him. We thought, oh, thank goodness, he's really going to be able to help. And technically, he was very good. And it's very interesting because in the course of being treated by this doctor, well, the very first meeting, he said to me and my family member, you know, I really love what I do. I know I'm a better doctor than I was a year ago, and I'm a better doctor than I was 10 years ago. And we went, wow, that's great. He's the guy we want to see. He's the guy we want to go see, and he's awesome. Sign us up. So in the course of being treated by him and getting opinions, we found out that he was probably in his estimation, he was a better doctor than he was a year ago. And he was a better doctor than he was 10 years ago, because he knew how to get you in and out of the room, and he didn't tolerate questions, so he was always on time. So that's a challenge, because here's one of the top guys, and he was the guy that we wanted to see, and we knew he was very good. But with someone who doesn't have the patience or the understanding of what it's like to be taking a drug that makes a difference in your quality of life and maybe the length of your life, to have someone that's looking at their watch and walking away. So what the important thing to do is what we sat down with him and we said, look, we're going to be getting other opinions. We have another place that we go see, and we're going to collaborate care with you, but we want to be up front. We're going to have a lot of questions, and you should expect that from us. And so when this doctor, he expects it from us, and he also expects that we're going to run down the hall and I'm going to grab him by his coat and I'm going to say, doctor, you said you're going to do this, let's think that. So importantly, if that's who you choose to have your care with, if he's not Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect, the important thing is you must advocate for yourself. Never be afraid to speak up. That is what they're there for. That is what they trained for. That is what they started their career for. It's very interesting about physicians, because I love physicians. I think they're fabulous, wonderful human beings. And we pester them a lot. And they don't get to go home as early. They don't get to go, most of them, don't get to go golfing when they want to or go sailing, because it's a strenuous thing to be a physician. But the important thing is, what's always impressed me is I have been, for many years, I was invited to give a talk to the new medical students at the university that were at the doctor-patient relationship. And what's always fascinating to me, every year, I would see the same fresh faces that would sit and hang on every word of the patients that were there, would talk about their cases and about their experiences. And they were just immersed in it. And how much can I help you? And how much I would love to be able to take care of that person and make their life better. I'm losing it, Joel. So, but what's fascinating is our medical system is tough. These young, hopeful people get pushed through a system where they have to perform, they have to be there, they have to do all these things, and doctors have to be on time, they have to bill, they have to do all those things. So it's important. It's not a terrible world, ladies and gentlemen. It's important to be aware of that. And we, by demanding our best care, by seeking our best care, only going to physicians and facilities that do the best care, we improve the system. So you're not only helping yourself, you're helping everyone. I would also say that in your search for finding the best care for yourself, always get a second opinion. If it's important to you, if it's life-changing, there's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion. And for years, I would have patients call the hotline, and they would say, you know, Dani, I think I need to get a second opinion. You know, I'm not really quite sure. It's a big deal what I'm going to take. It's life-threatening, the treatment, and you know, but I feel bad because I think I don't want to offend my physician. Isn't that sound strange? But we've all done it. We've all said. And you know that my reply to that would be, and always is, if she or he is a great doctor, they will welcome it. Always remember that. They will welcome a second opinion. They will respect you for it. If you have a doctor that says, you don't need to be going to get a second opinion, you shouldn't go see anyone else, he's not the right guy for you or person for you. He's worried about his revenue. Get out of there. That's my suggestion to you. A little strong talk, but it's the truth. Also, it's really important to be a fabulous historian. And what does that mean? You need to know about yourself. You need to be able to walk in, make notes. The funny thing is, people don't make notes and they think, well, maybe it looks too pedestrian or it looks like I don't really know what I'm talking about, that I have to refer to notes. Here's a big secret, ladies and gentlemen. The doctors cheat. They have notes too. It's called your medical record. And what they put in your medical record is what they believe you've told them or what they understand you to have said. You need to look at your medical record, find out what they think that you said, see if you agree with it. Is there something you need to change about it? If you're on top of what they perceive you as you will have better care. It's always important. You cannot be too involved in your care. It's a fabulous way. Keep a list of your medications, and if you're having symptoms that you can't seem to work through, and that happens a lot with brain injury and brain disorders, make a log. Have a loved one make a log so that you can say, we started this medication, it kept him up all night, here's 5 nights in a row, I can give you the data about it, and physicians will respond to that. You're helping them, they're helping you. It's a great partnership. And also, make sure, don't do it alone. That's important because we don't always have someone that can go with us, but there's always someone who wants to help you. You'll find that, no matter what your social situation. And just ask. It's so important when you go in to see a doctor to have another, when it's very serious, to have another ear that they can hear what's being said, understand the tone of what's being said, help you talk about it later. As well, it's important because sometimes I know that when I had my brain injury, it was interesting because when I saw my doctor alone, I know he was looking and thinking of the brain injury. I know he'd think, oh yes, disinhibition. That girl's really outgoing. Must have really been a big one that hit her because she's so outgoing. But you know, when she see my husband, he'd say, well, Ralph, how do you think Dani's doing? You know, Dani, she's a lot quieter than she usually is. She's not so happy. She seems, short-tempered. She's never been that way before. Those are things that, you don't want to report about yourself, but someone else with love can say what's happening so you can really, your physician can get a full picture. Because if my husband wouldn't report that, then the doctor gets out his note, makes a little note, he goes, yeah, here comes Miss Disinhibition. Little Miss Disinhibition, she's coming down the hall. No one's ever called me little. So the other thing is, get support. And that's important. It's hard to ask for that. It's hard to seek it. I remember when I was diagnosed with cancer, I thought, I want to go to a support group. A lot of people here have cancer. I don't want to be in a room full of people who have cancer. And then you realize, what was fabulous for me, it took me 8 months, after a year and a half of treatment, it took me 8 months to go to a support group. And here's what it did for me. Absolutely invaluable. When you're diagnosed with a serious illness, you have your life and your social circle, and everybody's with you. And then all of a sudden, bam, the bomb drops in your life, whatever that is. And it changes the social structure around you. Maybe you need to talk about it with your spouse over and over and over again. Maybe you don't want to talk about it with your spouse. Maybe you don't feel like you want to tell anybody in your circle what's going on. I know that as a woman who had breast cancer, in the very beginning I wouldn't talk about it. I became an advocate, and I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I took my shirt off to be able to pose nude so I could be on the cover to tell women how to deal with mastectomy. That is getting over your problem. Unlike those mice in that picture, my mother could look at it and still be proud of it. Support. So what it does is when you talk to other people in your community, and there are people here today that you'll meet at our networking lunch, you'll be inspired by them, you'll learn from them. They've already slogged through the tough part that you may have you or your family member go through. It's very important to get support. The things I learned in a support group, instead of trying to normalize my life and going on this path, where I'm up and down, this is tough, this is hard. It helped me get there faster. It helped me make a joke about, for me to live through breast cancer, by being able to go in a straight line, it's a lot easier path to get there. There were people that told me, there were people for me, when I was worried about, I had a very real concern about dying because the doctors were talking a lot to me about it. And I was in a support group, amazingly, and I will never forget, and I will always be grateful for a woman named Ann. I was 29 years old. My fiance had walked out the door. I didn't see a future. I had no hair and no breast, and I couldn't think I had a very good reason to think it was real, that I might not be alive in the next year. So I went to this support group, and I walked in and sat down, didn't want to be there. I didn't have any children. I hadn't been married yet. Everybody was talking about kids and their grandkids, and I thought, I don't know if I can even relate to this. I don't know. I might not even have that life. I might not be able to live there. What are they talking about? But there was a woman named Anne. She was 85 years old, and the therapist in the room was so smart. She said, "Hey, Anne, why don't you tell Dani about what you in your journey?" And she said, "Well, I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 34, and my husband, he was very supportive, and he was a wonderful guy, and, well, he died 20 years later. We had a lovely marriage, but, he died. I was diagnosed with lung cancer. I lived through that, and I remarried, and he was a great guy, but I outlived him. And my third husband, well, he was a great guy, and when I had colon cancer, he was there for me and wonderful, and we had a great, wonderful life, and I've outlived him. I've had a wonderful life. I've decided not to continue my treatment, but I want to just live fully to the end. This time, there were no support groups in San Diego. This is almost 27 years ago. I used to drive up to Los Angeles just to see Anne, just to watch a woman who had had a full life, who was satisfied, and she taught me how to do what I was terrified of. I might die, and I saw a woman, 2 weeks before she died, she came to our group, and she inspired me and let me think, I can see what the worst is, and I can see the worst is achievable, no matter what. I'm going to triumph over it, but if that's my lot, thank you, Anne. You've inspired me. I can't say enough about support. It's really fabulous. It makes all the difference. It helps you. What's great about going to support group is you are able to talk about things that are tough. Maybe you need to get off your chest, but those people aren't in your support group. They're not in your social circle. You're not going to see them down at the 7-Eleven or down at church, and they don't know all your secrets. People in a support group understand each other and help each other. And it's a fabulous way to take those tough things, work out things, and have a privacy about it. So, did I sell anybody on a support group? All right, good. You guys are going to just think up things for support groups. People that have too many weeds, you have a support group, that'd be a good idea. All right, so let's see. Make sure to network. Make sure to learn, to educate yourself. And be inspired. As I said, there are people all around you. As someone with a brain injury who had such a hard time for so long trying to move through when there wasn't enough treatment for me to be able to do what I'm doing today, I'm looking back at my notes, but I mostly can remember everything to tell you. I'm inspired by my college roommate, Cathy, who's sitting up front here. You need to introduce yourself to her. Cathy had a stroke, how many years ago? 3 years ago. Her sister finally found her cell phone. My husband and I were on the way to the airport. Cathy had a stroke, complete left side stroke. She was paralyzed in the hospital. We turned around from our taxi, went to the hospital, and Cathy couldn't say my name. She couldn't feed herself, and when I walked on the left side of her and talked to her, she couldn't register me being there. I thought, Jesus, we got a big fight here. How is my friend going to be able to be the vibrant, fun woman she is? Cathy is so inspiring. She, at the time, she managed 450 people working in civil service, and she's a major big gal, and had her stroke, and who could imagine you could bounce back from that? Cathy did all the therapy. She's made so many jokes about going to Target, and they in your therapy, they put everything when you have left side neglect, you don't recognize something on your left side. So they'd put all the things on the shopping list on the left path of Target. And she said, we wore out tennis shoes walking around trying to find the dang toilet paper because they put it all on the left. But ladies and gentlemen, Cathy McLain, you need to know her. She recovered. She worked very, very hard. She went back to work. She kept her position managing 450 people. She achieved her goal. She's a fabulous gal, and ladies and gentlemen, I just went to her retirement. She's a wealthy woman, and she's achieved everything she wants in her life, and her boyfriend's crazy about her. Big hand for Cathy. All right, we're going to have to get going. So I'm talking about advocacy for yourself. Now here's the bigger issue, and we'll talk about it briefly after the final presentation. This is a very big, important one. For me, I cannot emphasize enough what standing up and advocating can do for you, not only for your community, for the world at large, but for you individually. The times in the beginning, I didn't even want to tell anyone I had breast cancer. And the times when I realized, the very first time I ever stood up, I'd gone to UCSD, and I told them when I applied, I never told them I had breast cancer, but I wanted to become the ombudsman for the center because I thought, I can't believe I changed my career. I can't believe all these bad things that are happening, and people aren't getting very good. They're not getting coordinated care. They're not getting in on time to see the right physicians. I want to be part of that solution. So I went in like a prisoner, putting on the prison guard clothes, and went back into the institution, and I went to UCSD, and I said, I could be good at this. I would love to advocate. I'd love to be that. I became the ombudsman for the center. And even in that, I didn't stand up to tell people I had breast cancer. And I'll tell you my turning point, ladies and gentlemen. There was a physician there they were all lovely, and my job was all these busy guys, my job was to analyze all the cases that were coming in and to make sure that the patients got in to see someone who was an expert in what they had. You'd think that would be easy, that would be something you would always do. But 20 years ago, it wasn't that case. It was just who was available. I became friends with everybody. And there was a guy that was the head of surgery that I also became friends with. And he said, what a sweet gal. She's come to help out here. Hey, Dani, there's a national meeting in San Diego on oncology. Do you want to go? Sure, I'll go. Took the afternoon off, went, and I sat in the back with him. And there were probably 10,000 people, doctors, at this meeting. And they were talking about the side effects of chemotherapy. And I went into menopause with my chemotherapy, and there was a drug that was off-label that my smart physician at MD Anderson figured out. And they were talking about it, and nobody was mentioning it. And I remember sitting in the back of the hall, and I know I'm standing up here, but I'm actually, I'm not a doctor. And I'm sitting in the back, and they're not talking about it. And I can remember my heart kind of beating, going, why aren't they talking about that? That drug really helped me a lot. And I'm thinking to myself, and my heart's beating, and I'm talking to myself as I'm sitting next to a guy that could fire me, have me fired or not. And I sat there and I thought, that's really important. And I thought, Dani, you're going to get up, aren't you? Don't get up, you idiot. You don't know anything. They're all doctors here. You can't have anything to contribute. I can feel it. You're about to get up, aren't you? You're walking up to the microphone. They have an open mic, and now you're walking up. And I stood in this hall, 10,000 people, and they had a big, they had all these microphones all the way up because I was sitting in the back. All these doctors were getting up and arguing about treatment. And when I got to the microphone, as my heart's beating up in my chest, I said, yes, hello, my name is Dani Grady. I'm a breast cancer survivor. And the entire room stopped and turned around. I tell you, it's an awe-inspiring event when an entire room turns around to look at you when you didn't want to get up and speak in the first place. So I mentioned about the drug, and I told him the dose, and I said, nobody's mentioning that, but I just wanted to tell you, and I'm the ombudsman at UCSD, and I just wanted to tell you about it. And I sat down, and the doctor that brought me looked over and went, holy Jesus, what did I do? And I sat there, and I thought, what an idiot. You had no right to say that. You should just mention it. Maybe you could have emailed somebody and told them. When they broke, I started to walk toward the exit, and no lie, I had probably 30 physicians around me saying, what was the name of that drug? What was the dose you had? And how did that happen? Ladies and gentlemen, that made a difference. That was the beginning of it. When you're afraid or feel uncomfortable to stand up, it's the exact right time to do it. It's very easy. There are simple things you can do to make the world move, because we're having such a challenge with being able to help people with all these brain disorders. We are not a small community. When you put us all together, this idea of mapping the human brain is something that will raise the level for all of us. All of us. It will help the cancer community. Unfortunately, as a breast cancer survivor, most often a death sentence is handed when you have a metastatic lesion in your brain. I want them to be able to understand what that is. I want it to be when you go in and have a brain injury, you can understand, why did it take 5 months? I was slowly developing, I was in a lot of anxiety and pain, and why were there no drugs that could help me for so long? Why is that way? Why do we have dear friends who are, some of my dearest friends here are struggling with Parkinson's, with stroke, and we have family with Alzheimer's. The community is absolutely huge. Whether you lick an envelope, you write a letter, you volunteer to help put the flowers on an event, whatever it is, you can make a huge difference. We can make it happen. The cancer community started when no one wanted to talk about it. Now they're annoying the heck out of us, aren't they? So, other things you can do is, I was on the IRB at the university. That's fabulous. This new area of understanding about the brain, they need people who are not afraid to speak up, who are thoughtful. You don't have to be a doctor. They don't want a doctor for a community representative. They want someone who can think about how it would be for a patient to go through this treatment, what the effects would be, what the consent is like. Those are things, ladies and gentlemen, you have it. You're not your disease. Your family is not your disease. You are change agents. That's extremely important because we can move the world.